wherever they are. Myself, Gyanalok Mohanty, General Secretary Adhivakta Parisad Odisha. After a brief gap, we are again meeting virtually due to this pandemic. However, it is my proud privilege to welcome all of you on this auspicious day, 125th birth anniversary of Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose. I, on my behalf and on behalf of Adhivakta Parisad Odisha, welcome all the participants to this function. Today, to commemorate the 125th birth anniversary of Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose, we have taken up a topic to discuss about the lifespan of Netaji, his political relevance during those period. Today, on this auspicious day, we are very much fortunate to have our chief guest and keynote speaker, Justice Sanjeeb Kumar Panigrahi. Justice Sanjeeb Kumar Panigrahi, presently Honorable Judge of Orissa High Court. Today, we are very much fortunate that he has given his consent to be the keynote speaker as well as chief guest of this function. Let me introduce Justice S.K. Panigrahi. After completing his LLM in business law from National Law University, Bangalore, he started his career as research assistant before the Honorable Supreme Court judge. He thereafter, briefly working as research assistant, he joined in the bar, practiced in Supreme Court, Orissa High Court, Delhi High Court, and his specialty is he practiced in all branches of law. He was advocate on record of the Honorable Supreme Court. He was the counsel for Union of India, Panel Council of Union of India before the Honorable Apex Court from 2009 to 2014. He was also the counsel for the state of Orissa from 2013 till his elevation to the bench. And his other qualities are he's a voracious reader of economics, philosophy, and he takes keen interest in music and cultural activities. He was appointed as judge of Orissa High Court on 10th February 2020. We, on behalf of Adhivakta Parisad, welcome you all. Welcome you, sir. Welcome this function. Welcome to this function. Our next guest speaker, or we can say the moderator, Shri Soura Mohapatra. I think Mr. Soura Mohapatra doesn't require any introduction. He is very much known to all the legal luminaries, students, fraternity people very well. He is a renowned criminal lawyer. Moreover, he is a cultural man, and along with the voracious reader, he is also a good speaker. He takes keen interest in the history and literature. Today, we got him as a moderator of our function. We, on behalf of Adhivakta Parisad, welcome you, sir. Today, this function is presided over by our president, Shri Kambupani Padhi. Shri Kambupani Padhi belongs to the district of Balangir. He is now practicing as a senior counsel in Titlagarh courts. He is the president of our Adhivakta Parisad, as well as he is the zonal secretary of East Zone of Akhil Bharatiya Adhivakta Parisad. That East Zone means under him Odisha, Bengal, Andaman Nicobar. These three states are coming, and the Adhivakta Parisad functions under his guidance. I heartily welcome you, sir, in this function. Now, before I invite our moderator to enlighten us about the topic, I would like to say that today it is the 125th birth anniversary of Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose, who is the son of the soil. Here in Odisha, he has taken birth, specifically in Cuttack. Every year, we, the members of Adhivakta Parisad, observe his birth anniversary with a fanfare. But this year, because of this pandemic, we are compelled to observe it through virtually. However, in the morning, we all went to his residence and garlanded his statue. Because of pandemic, we were not allowed to enter into the birthplace, the room where he had taken birth. However, on this auspicious day, I heartily wish all of you every success in your life. Now, I would like to request Mr. Soura Mohapatra to enlighten us about the topic relevance of Netajee in the contemporary Indian politics. Your turn, sir. Soura, sir.
Thank you. Good evening to all. My namaskar. We are assembled here on the auspicious occasion of the 125 years birth anniversary of the son of the soil, great freedom fighter, a patriot, Subhas Chandra Bose. In this occasion, we are fortunate that the virtual meeting is being presided by my respected Shri Kambupani Padhi sir, who is none else but the state president Adhivakta Parisad Odisha. We are fortunate to have the keynote speaker, Honorable Justice Sanjeeb Panigrahi, Judge, Orissa High Court, who will enlighten on the subject. And we are here also the General Secretary, Adhivakta Parisad, Gyanalok, Mohanty, and my friends from legal fraternity, the invited guests, and ladies and gentlemen. The subject on its colloquial meaning, what I understand, ସମସାମୟିକ ଭାରତୀୟ ରାଜନୀତିର ନେତାଜୀଙ୍କର ପ୍ରାସଙ୍ଗିକତା. It is related to pre-independence political thought of Netajee. But in my considered view, Netajee, his life sketch, his philosophy, his political thought is always relevant and always useful so far the Indian politics is concerned, India itself is concerned, and Indian citizens are concerned. We all are very proud and privileged to have a great son who was born in Odia Bazar at Cuttack town in the year 1897. He studied here at Relevance Collegiate School and thereafter shifted for his higher study to Calcutta. From the very beginning, if we will consider, he born in a very moderate and influential family here at Cuttack. His father was practicing law here at Cuttack, and a affluent family itself. But still, from the childhood, he has a dedication, he has a belongingness, and a patriotic feeling towards the country itself. So far his political life is concerned, he joined Indian National Congress. At the relevant time when he joined in Indian National Congress, there are two groups of people, two thoughts of people, they are operating in the Indian National Congress. They are known as Naramapathy, those who are very short towards the English government and they are trying to take the Quit India movement very slowly by non-cooperation. And there are other class of people who are very violent in their thoughts that we can throw the English government from the country by exercising our mental and physical force. The concept of second, third class of people, Netajee is one of them. His political philosophy is that we are not show coward. We can show our force and we can mobilize our force, our human power and throw the English government. Somehow or other, both the groups, they acted very coherently, collectively to make India free from the British rule. In this prevailing situation at that time, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, who was leading the movement, and politically he was active and controlling the entire Congress, National Congress at that time. There was some difference of opinion between Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose and Mahatma Gandhi. However, they cooperate, respect to each other in all angles, and their only motive was to make India free from the British rule. That's why what happened when the time comes, Netaji become the president of Indian National Congress. At the initial stage, he was cooperated by all the Congress members and permitted him to allow to lead the organization. Subsequently, there was some difference of opinion for which Mahatma Gandhi did not accept the presidency of Netaji, for which what happened? He contested against the will and wish of the Mahatma Gandhi and ultimately also elected as the president of the National Congress. In spite of that, since both the stalwarts, they do not agree on certain points, there is a mutual differences, though they have respect to each other and they appreciate the quality of action taken by each other. But what Netaji did, that is a great sacrifice he contributed, and that is a lesson for all of us, that he quit All India Congress Party, form a political party that is known as Forward Bloc. Thereafter, he started his movement in a different way. He is a very brave, patriotic, and dedicated worker, having influence over almost all the Indian people. And his philosophy, political philosophy, basically was to improve the India, to make India a proud country before the war. And that was the motive for which he secretly left India, joined in a moment of war. Unfortunately, in the year 1945, due to bombardment, atomic bomb at Japan, he could not succeed. But he is the first person who shows the path of liberation, path of freedom. And in his political career, if we will analyze at that time, he was very much concerned about the socio-economic and cultural upliftment of the Indians. He was thinking that education and health is the primary thing which should be improved. His political philosophy was that the elected members or the politician should guide the bureaucrats and bureaucrats should serve the people to their best of ability, not they should rule the nation. That's why he thought at that time that the woman empowerment is necessary for development of this country because 50% of the or citizens belong to women community. That's why, for example, he started a unity in the defense, which was then known as Rani Jhansi Bai Regiment, giving the women equal opportunity, equal sharing of the independence movement in the India. That is the greatest political philosophy which would have been implemented, and by that process India can develop more and more. Now, considering the contemporary philosophy or politics of Netajee, I will say that it is not only a limited period, it is relevant for all times to come. All the politicians who are ruling, they should follow the philosophy, political philosophy of Netaji, who has sacrificed for the nation itself. With these words, I pay my respect to the great soul, great freedom fighter, who is our ideal on his 125th birthday, and conclude my speech. Thank you to all. Time over.
Thank you, sir, for your eroding speech. Now, whom we have waited to listen, our chief guest, keynote speaker, Honorable Justice Sanjeeb Kumar Panigrahi. I would like to request your lordship to have your thoughts on this topic.
Namaskar, esteemed Shri Kambupani Padhi, State President of Adhivakta Parisad. I am audible.
Yes, my lord. Yes,
I am
my lord.
audible.
Yes, my lord.
Okay. Esteemed Shri Kambupani Padhi, State President of Adhivakta Parisad. Shri Soura Chandra Mohapatra, Senior Advocate, Member Adhivakta Parisad. Shri Gyanalok Mohanty, Advocate, General Secretary Adhivakta Parisad, and other office bearers of and members of Adhivakta Parisad, Orissa chapter. Good evening to everybody who are participating in this program through virtual mode. I must record my thankfulness to organizers for inviting me to speak something about a legendary figure in the landscape of Indian subcontinent. In fact, I am too dwarf a speaker to say something on this legendary personality. Still, I will have to say something as protocol demands. Today, we remember two great sons of our own soil, Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose and Veer Surendra Sai, who are often forgotten from the amnesia-stricken mind of successive governments' anniversary calendar. I pay my tribute to the two great heroes of India and sons of this soil. Surendra Sai, often we forget him because Subhas Chandra Bose overshadows him. Though in Odisha also we often forget this great man. Surendra Sai was also a great freedom fighter in the first Indian struggle for independence in 19th century. He is the least known and yet one of the bravest and most valiant martyrs for the cause of independence of the country. It is a pity that this name has been omitted in many annals of this first war of independence of India. Surendra Sai started his revolt against the British rule long before 1857 and continued this guerrilla war against the British authority from 1857 to 1864, long after the struggle led by Rani Jhansi, Tantia Tope, Kunwar Singh and other. History refuses to recognize the valor, patriotism, and the noble qualities of a hero who has fought and lost. The same thing happened with Surendra Sai and also with Subhas Chandra Bose. The victor occupied a notable place in the pages of history. However, cruel, mean, and selfish he may be, and he is free to malign the victim. This is the lesson we learn from the life of Surendra Sai and Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose. Anyway, since I have been invited to speak on Netajee, I shall not digress from the topic. Known by the slogan, "Give me your blood, I shall give you freedom." Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose, as Mr. Mohapatra has already told, that he was born in Cuttack, in Odisha, on January 23rd, that is on this day, in the year 1897, to Janki Nath Bose and Prabhavati Devi. Janki Nath Bose was one of the successful lawyers in Cuttack, who in fact came from Calcutta in the year 1885 and joined the Orissa bar. This is what I have collected from the unfinished autobiography, which could not have been published because of the disappearance of Netajee. But later, his grandson, brother's, grandson, his elder brother's grandson, Shishir Bose, he has compiled some of the Netajee's this book. If anybody of you are interested, I can share with you. I have that book, the whole 2 volumes of that book. His father came to Cuttack in 1885 and joined the bar. In 1901, he was the first non-official elected chairman of Cuttack Municipality, what is now the Cuttack Municipal Corporation. In 1905, he became government pleader and public prosecutor. And this is how his career started in Cuttack, and he was a very successful lawyer. And Netajee joined the school, primary school in some English school. Later, he went to Relevance Collegiate School in 1909. In that book, he has also referred to one great teacher, that is headmaster of that school, Beni Madhav Das. Mr. Beni Madhav Das had a great influence on Netajee's young mind when he was a school student. He has referred in his autobiography, he has given sufficient space for this great teacher who had shaped the life of Netajee in his formative years. So we must salute to that great teacher who had taught him and made him such a great man. In the first address from the rampart of Red Fort in August 1947, India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru mentioned only 2 leaders' names who had a great role in India's freedom struggle. That doesn't mean that other leaders, they didn't have any role. But he profoundly remembered 2 important leaders' names in that first speech from the Red Fort. One was naturally the man whom Netajee had been first to hail the father of our nation. Nehru said in his tribute, and I quote, "The country has achieved freedom under the brilliant leadership and guidance of Mahatma Gandhi. Our technique of fighting was different from that of other countries. Sometimes we had faltered and stumbled, but finally we reached our goal. If credit is due to any man today, it is Gandhiji. He, one man complete." The second homage, what Jawaharlal Nehru said, was the homage to Netajee he offered in the context of remembering the suffering and sacrifices of freedom fighters. On this day, he said, I'm quoting, on this day, we must remember those who have made sacrifices and suffered for the cause of independence. It is needless for me to name all of them, but I cannot help mentioning Subhas Chandra Bose, who left this country and formed the Indian National Army abroad and fought bravely for the freedom of the country. He hoisted this flag in foreign countries, and when the day came for hoisting it on the Red Fort, he was not to see his dream fulfilled. This should have been the day of his return, but alas, he is no longer in this world. Netajee had left us, but he left us a rich inheritance of ideas, ideals, and dreams. The most precious item in the legacy of his generous and imaginative approach towards achieving unity by respecting difference. Unfortunately, this respecting difference is decaying gradually from our public life. For the last 75 years, he has been an iconic figure, a hero with no comparison, and a legendary figure for a very long and established Indian tradition. During the first 4 decades after independence, he was largely ignored and marginalized in the official and state-sponsored narratives of Indian freedom struggle. Even you don't find much about Subhas Chandra Bose in our history book. Very conveniently, his role was diminished, though he has been mentioned, but very rarely mentioned. Such ignorance did not diminish him in public perception, let alone erase him from the national memory. In retrospect, it is clear that the official suppression of Bose's role and contribution spectacularly backfired. The more he was brushed out of the official narratives, the more his stature and myth grew in popular imagination of Indian people. The word Netajee itself is a deeply emotional phenomenon in Indian subcontinent. Exactly a week before his assassination on January 13, 1948, Gandhiji had happily taken a note of Subhas' birthday. In his final eulogy to the departed leader, the Mahatma pointed out that Subhas knew no provincialism nor communal differences and had in his brave army men and women drawn from all over India without distinction and evoked affection, loyalty, which very few have been able to evoke. That was the respect from Gandhiji. Though history often discusses about the differences, but they had mutual admiration. That is what lacking in today's politics. Everybody is in the different shades of political opinions. You have differences, but the differences are going to such an extent which is creating a lot of public outcry. Gandhiji has been asked that day by a lawyer friend for a good definition of Hinduism. He did not offer one, but simply said that Hinduism regarded all religion as worthy of all respect. Netajee, the Mahatma, believed was such a Hindu, and therefore, in memory of that great patriot, he called upon Indians to cleanse their hearts of all communal bitterness. Even for Hinduism, defining Hinduism, just Mahatma Gandhi referred to Netajee. See, what Netajee is doing about Hinduism, that is true Hinduism. In his excellent book, Nehru and Bose, Parallel Lives, by Rudranshu Mukherjee, recently released book. If anybody of you wants, I can share with you. I have the soft copy of that book also. So if you can, somebody of you can give your number, I can share. So Rudranshu Mukherjee says, he explored deep into the complex relationship between the two towering personalities of Indian freedom movement, Nehru and, of course, Bose. Mukherjee reminds us a close ideological comrade of Bose in the Indian National Congress. The leftward radicalism of Nehru and Bose was counterbalanced in the Congress by the right-wing guard of like Rajendra Prasad, C. Rajgopalachari, Vallabhbhai Patel, Mahatma Gandhi. So this is how the Indian National Congress was balanced with the right wing and left wing. So there is a balancing factor. These people are the balancing factor. The difference between Nehru and Bose was the latter's alacrity in departing from Gandhian ideals of non-violence to pursue the cause of independence. Bose, as opposed to Nehru and Gandhi, was also ready to take up the help of Nazi Germany and fascist Italy to dismantle the British Empire in India. That doesn't mean that they were fascist. They were influenced by fascist ideologies. No, to make the country freedom, they had to adopt that ideology. They didn't mind adopting that ideology. Bose's view on the economy were almost identical to that of Nehru. It was under Bose Congress presidency that a National Planning Committee, the predecessor to the post-independence, what we call the Planning Commission, was formed. Nehru took over its first chairman. Unfortunately, in the Planning Commission also, we don't find Subhas Chandra Bose's name anywhere. The economic modernist Bose believed in rapid industrialization with a special emphasis on heavy industries. What is Nehru's idea? Also the same thing. Though Gandhi had a slightly different view. He was trying to focus on the rural and cottage industries. Bose was all for scientific advancement of agricultural practices, but he saw large-scale industrial revolution as the only solution to the problem of poverty and unemployment the country was facing at the time. He was impressed with the Soviet model of planned economy. Bose said, we can at best determine whether this revolution, that is industrialization, will be a comparatively gradual one. As in the Great Britain or forced march as in Soviet Russia, I'm afraid that it has to be a forced march into this country. That in that way, people often refer to Subhas Chandra Bose as an autocrat. No, he was not at all an autocrat. He was a fierce democrat. But certain areas, certain forcefulness was also necessary at that point in time. Therefore, so that his thought sometimes radical. You can call him radical, not autocrat. The national reconstruction of India in Bose's vision would be carried out with primary role marked for the public sector and a planning commission at the helm. At that time, since the private sector was not very keen to take interest in industrialization of the country, of course, there were very few private companies at that time to take the country's economic progress ahead. So that's why what we at that point of time called the commanding heights of the economy. He also believed in that those commanding heights of the economy, as Nehru was believing. The capital for the socialist state, Bose argued, will have to be procured through internal and external loans or through inflation. Rajagopalachari, Bose's ideological adversary, would have argued that there is no difference between deficit financing and inflation, as the former leads wrote a letter to the latter. So there had been some differences among those leaders, but his view on economics was also very clear. As far as political governance is concerned, Bose envisaged a strong central government, but with a large measure of autonomy to the states. The minority community should be given a lot of importance. As a great proponent of national unity, Bose argued that Hindustani in Roman script as a lingua franca for India, so that there will not be any problem. But unfortunately, those things didn't happen. There are so many issues on that, so I'm not going to. That is, of course, a debatable issue. The Roman lingua franca, as he was proposing, many of the leaders they didn't like that idea. To further the cause of unification, Bose was in favor of a role of the Congress Party in India on the lines of the Communist Party in Russia, the Nazi Party in Germany, or the Fascist Party in Italy, or like that. The towering charisma of Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose was a military leader at the forefront of Indian independence movement, particularly outside India, has dwarfed many of its other contributions, especially as a social reformer, industrial relations expert. Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose was a great orator, prolific writer and doer, one who practiced what he preached. Though Netaji has never been a student of sociology, he has always a keen observer of Indian society. During his stay in Europe, Netaji did establish and develop contacts with sociologists, apart from political leaders, economists, literati, scientists, and people from cultural world. The relevance of Netaji in 21st century is in many ways self-evident. The problems that he wanted to be addressed so many decades ago are still prevalent. Still those problems are there. Still we are fighting with those problems. If those problems are there, his ideology cannot be irrelevant. We are still faced with extreme poverty, illiteracy, and diseases. The right kind of homage to Netaji would be to reevaluate and to rededicate ourselves to meeting these challenges, thereby looking at these challenges from a more nuanced and holistic perspective. It is not enough to simply remember him on his birth anniversary without paying due importance to his various philosophies and ideas. Netaji has world-renowned fame of global hero of freedom, the title which he duly deserves for his phenomenal contribution to India's freedom struggle. His thoughts, braveness, inspiring messages stirred not only the Indians but also the patriots of third world countries. Anywhere such kind of revolt were there, they used to follow the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi and Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose. Though their thought process may be slightly, one is in the esteem sense, other, so there are the ideological differences are many, but many countries adopted their ideologies. Many social revolutionary fighters, including the South African Nelson Mandela and many other leaders, they followed both the leaders. One individual may die for an idea, but that idea will, after his death, incarnate itself in 1,000 lives. That is what happened with this great man, Subhas Chandra Bose. This signifies how ideas are important even the person leaves the world. Very few, if any, among our independent leaders had thought and planned about political system, the economy, the social structure that independent India should strive towards. Netaji had, in fact, put forward a blueprint for the future of India in his famous Haripura address as the President of Indian National Congress in February 1938. At Haripura Congress session, Subhas Chandra Bose, as the President of Indian National Congress, spelled out the fundamental rights of the people of India. Right that every citizen of India would enjoy once India was free from the British dominion. I would like to mention a few of those rights. Every citizen of India has the right of free expression of opinion, the right of free association and combination, and the right to assemble peacefully and without arms for a purpose not opposed to law or morality. Every citizen shall enjoy freedom of conscience and the right freely to profess and practice his religion, subject to the public order and morality. This was later incorporated in Indian Constitution. The culture, the language, and script of minorities and of the different linguistic areas shall be protected. That was another important areas. All citizens are equal before the law, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, or sex. At Haripura, that more than 8 decades ago, Netaji had all set out plan for reconstruction. Once India had attained her freedom, and he said, regarding reconstruction, our principal problem will be how to eradicate poverty from our country. Even today, that problem is there. Maybe the form may have changed, the intensity may have changed, but the problem is still there. Netaji had thought of everything, including the importance of India's foreign relations. He talked of developing international contacts by Indian cultural organizations and by Indian Chamber of Commerce to raise India's profile across the globe. We have to showcase in what area we have our strength, that we need to showcase. That is what at that point of time he thought of. His words pertain to democracy, its functioning, and other nuances still hold the utmost importance even today. It can't be understood which can be understood from a quote, and I'm quoting what he said. Democracy is by no means a Western institution. It is a human institution. Wherever man has attempted to evolve political institutions, he has hit upon this wonderful institution of democracy. The past history of India is replete with instances of democratic institutions. Today, when we find democracy in crisis in many parts of the world, we need to remind ourselves of the faith that Netajee placed in democracy. Democracy is not a perfect system. I would say it may not be a perfect system, but it is certainly the best available system in the world. He again says, if we want to make India really great, we must build up a political democracy on the pedestal of a democratic society. Privileges based on birth, caste, or creed should go, and equal opportunities should be thrown upon to all, irrespective of caste, creed, or religion. The status of women should also be raised, and women should be trained to take larger and more intelligent interest in public affairs. This even holds good. Whatever he said long back, this even today it holds good. It is quite relevant today also. Subhas Chandra Bose developed an ethical approach to life based on sacrifices, renunciation, self-abnegation, and self-sacrifice, which is in a way the core of democratic way of life. This is even holds true. These virtues cannot be just done away with. Even we just Subhas Bose, the person like Subhas Bose has left us for hundreds of years. Still, these principles can never fade. This will always bind our political life. Our political philosophy will always that will be embedded in our political philosophy. These ethical and spiritual ideas contributed to his formulation of political philosophy in consistence with Indian culture and civilization. He said, the big joint family taught him love. He had a huge family. He has 9 brothers and sisters, and his uncles, sons and daughters. So they have a huge joint family. So that joint family taught him love, generosity, kindness, patience, tolerance, cooperative attitude, and sympathy, the very ingredient of a democracy. If we consider the whole India as a joint family, and these elements are present, we will be an El Dorado, the best spot in the world. Bose valued freedom of thought and action also in larger social context, which is quite evident from his the exchange of letter with Hemant Kumar Sarkar. I don't want to go on to all those things because these are, again, this time is now getting. I think I've spent a lot of time, so I'm just trying to wrap up. His emphasis on individual dignity best. He was emphasizing more on the individual dignity and identity. Did never allow him to accept the totalitarian doctrine that state is the master, the individual is the servant. He totally did not like the idea that state is the master and individual is the servant. The Constitution of India draws its power from the people of India. We, the people of India, they are the real face of the country. So here there can't be, no government can act as a master. They are always servant. Although the need of a political system, a state of an authoritarian character in place of a so-called democratic system, he meant a state, it will work as an organ or as a servant of the masses, not an authoritarian entity. Netajee was a fervent believer of secularism. No amount of wealth, power, or honor could make him deviate from his one-point agenda of secularism. He had a lot of respect for all religion. There was no discrimination in the Indian National Army. Even at his house in Qatar, I was reading in the book, So he in his family there were Muslim servants. There were Christian people who were also there. So there was, so he had that grown that secularism. He imbibed that culture of secularism from his house, from his childhood days. So he was a great secularist. Netaji believed in communal harmony. Once he was invited to a temple ceremony, but he is known to have refused to attend it without his Muslim generals when he was in INA. The temple authority had to relent. Food for the INA soldiers was prepared in a secular kitchen. There was no separate site for any religious congregation. Everyone was expected to pray at a common venue. When in Singapore, he used to often visit Ramakrishna Mission, but never interfered with the spiritual practices of its soldiers. The secularism that Indian politicians post 1947 trumpeted was practiced by Netaji in all sincerity throughout his life. He was brought up in a liberal and secular environment from his family itself, as I was telling you. Netaji was again a great advocate of the gender equality. Netaji believed in gender equality. That is quite evident from the fact that he had a female wing, a women regiment in its INA. Although there was steep opposition from within the community itself, including the Japanese generals, Netaji tried hard to bring forth parity between men and women. He rightly diagnosed the problem of illiteracy and economic dependence, the root cause of the serfdom of our women. Bose spoke firmly in favor of removing all obstacles in the way of women's emancipation. He spoke in favor of all-round education for women, for which he formulated a recipe which included literacy, physical and vocational education or training on the light of cottage industries. So these can, of course, improve the lot of the women. He was a great supporter of widow remarriage, abolition of Purda system. So all these things reflect that he was truly in favor of emancipating women. Netaji's valor, righteousness, and the spirit of sacrifice, as well as the fellow feeling for the soldier of the INA, is incomparable. His commitment to the safety of the members of women regiment and IOS is paramount. Then he's a great nationalism. Nowadays, the word nationalism again has come to acquire a huge dimension of our public debate. Bose was a true nationalist. His heart was always bleeding for the country, for the emancipation of the Indian people from the British the British dominion. So he was a powerful enemy of the British. Unfortunately, none of these momentous acts was ever recorded in our history books, nor any members of Indian Independence League or INA were appointed by Jawaharlal Nehru administration after 1947. Nehru also deprived the INA soldiers of the freedom fighters' pension. The question is not any party, any color of the party, any shade of opinion of the party. The question is how these people who really led, so many people have died, and these people were not even recognized. The INA fighters, especially 26,000 were martyred in the battlefield along the northeastern borders, have never been honored by Ministry of Defense as true war heroes. And I'm surprised. The India Gate, where you have all the names of all these people who fought in the World War I, but you don't find any name of a single name of any INA hero. What to talk of Subhas Bose? Nor does the Defense Ministry display any photograph of Subhas Bose in its premises. We as a nation have failed to honor the man of valor and his soldiers who had fought against the British. To date, honor is conferred upon those who died protecting British Empire. Look at the India Gate, as I have told you. Subhas Chandra Bose is an outstanding leader of the Indian national movement. became a legendary figure to be almost worshipped as a great hero and a charismatic leader. Fortunately, we have started realizing his importance. For 4-5 decades, we have totally our Indian system, the government was amnesia reading with respect to Subhas Bose. Understanding the political philosophy of Netajee and analysis from various perspectives of secularism, nationalism, democratic and socialistic domain, we find this is very much relevant in today's world. He was also a spiritualist. A spiritual approach to life was originally initiated under the influence of his religious parents, of course, as we find in most of the parents in Odisha, they are religious by nature. So that automatically it is transmitted to the next generation. So the same thing happened with Subhas Chandra Bose. Subsequently, his searching mind right in his school days could explore out meaning, significance and objective of human life when he came in contact with the teachings, writings and philosophy of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda Arvind Ghosh. So he was also a deeply spiritual man. Life loses half in its interest if there is no struggle, if there are no risks to be taken. That is what Subhas Chandra Bose says. He has pertinently said, it is pertinently say that Netajee struggle of one kind or the other is the key to life. It gives us hope, determination, and most importantly, the attribute to believe in oneself in the face of adversaries. Lacking icons of their own, India's political parties are attempting to appropriate leaders of freedom struggle other than Jawaharlal Nehru. However, it is not as easy to lay false claim to the political legacy of Subhas Chandra Bose and Vallabhbhai Patel. Majoritarianism with democracy and uniformity with unity and contemporary Indian state runs the risk of turning our back on the best tradition of Indian anti-colonial nationalism. It is in this context and erosion of political ethics that life as message of both Mahatma Gandhi and Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose requires urgent renewal. Like Gandhian values cannot be reduced to a cleanliness campaign, and Vaishnava Jana Tere sung on Gandhi Jayanti, extolling Netaji military's heroism sounds hollow if divorced from its unequivocal commitment to religious harmony. Netaji's life was greater than the legendary figure, he himself. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for such a thought-provocative speech. Your Lordship, as your Lordship knows, or your Lordship will be knowing in near future, this Adhivakta Parisad, Odisha, since 1995, when nobody was paying tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, we all were going to Netaji's birthplace on each birthday, and we used to celebrate every year with much fanfare. Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Now, I would like to request our President, Shri Kambupani Padhi, to deliver his presidential address. Kambu.
प्रातस्मरणीय भारत माता, Honorable Justice Shri Sanjeeb Kumar Panigrahi, आमर अग्रज वरिष्ठ अधिवक्ता श्री सौर महापात्र महोदय, ओडिशा प्रांत अधिवक्ता परिषद संपादक श्री ज्ञानलोक मोहांती महोदय एवं आम सहित उपस्थित वरिष्ठ अधिवक्ता परिषद समस्त सदस्य भाई भौणी एवं यही न्याय प्रदानकारी संस्थार जड़ित थिबा समस्त दर्शक वृंद, आज सौभाग्यर कथा आम गहन आम माननीय न्यायाधीश को पाइछु एवं मो पाई मध्य एक तात्पर्यपूर्ण समय कहीं से आमर ये बलांगीर जिल्लार से जन्मस्थान अटे और आज दिन बहुत तात्पर्यपूर्ण एवं महत्वपूर्ण एथिपाई जे आज दिन रे 19 शताब्दी प्रथम दशार्धरे 1809 मसीह आम सहित संबलपुर अंचल छेन रे जन्म ग्रहण करथिले विशिष्ट क्रांतिकारी वीर सुरेंद्र साय एवं सही शताब्दीर शेष दशंधि रे जन्म ग्रहण करथिले एई ओडिशार वीरमाटी रे सुभाष चंद्र बोस। आज आमर जो विषय को लेकर आम चर्चा रखिलु एवं आम गहन रे जस्टिस पाणिग्राही सुभाष चंद्र बोस को विषय रे तांकर विचार, तांकर देश प्रति प्रतिबद्धता एवं देश किपरि गठन हो, आग को देशर राजनैतिक पृष्ठभूमि, आर्थिक पृष्ठभूमि किपरि गढ़े से विषय रे हमको बहुत सुंदर भाव मार्गदर्शन कले एवं नेताजी विचार उपरे, तांकर जीवन एवं तांकर कार्य उपरे एक प्रेरणादायी विषय उपस्थापन कले। आमे अधिवक्ता परिषद हिसाब रे एवं अधिवक्ता परिषद सदस्य भाव रे सदा सर्वदा आमर प्रथम लक्ष्य रही है जे आमे देश पाई किपरि काम करि पारिबु, देश पाई आमर न्याय विधि व्यवस्था रे किपरि आमे सेवा करि पारिबु। यह तात्पर्यपूर्ण जे आमे आमर प्रोफेशन संगे संगे देशर उन्नति माने आम समाज उन्नति एवं समाज रे शेष पंक्ति रे जो माने अछंती जांग पाखरे पहुंचीबा वर्तमान सुद्धा विधि व्यवस्था हो कि प्रशासनिक व्यवस्था हो ता द्वारा पूर्ण भाव में समर्थ होई नाहंती, आमे सेथिरे किछि योगदान करूछु एवं आमर अधिवक्ता भाई माने निज समय दे देश मात्र ପାଇଁ चिंतन करूछंती एवं किछि कार्यक्रम ग्रहण करूछंती एवं ताको व्यवस्थित भाव में संपादन करूछंती। आज दिन आम समस्तक ପାଇଁ एक प्रेरणादायी दिन एथिपाई जे महानायक सुभाष चंद्र बोस तांकर जो विचार रखुतिले ताहा आम समस्त को यही राष्ट्रवादी विचार परिवार समस्त को एक प्रेरणा उत्स भाव में मार्गदर्शन करिथाए। तांकर एक विशेष वक्तव्य सब से कहते इट इज नॉट मैटर who among us will live to see India free. It is enough that India shall be free and that we shall give our all to make her free. से सब विश्वास करते जीवन सर्वस्व दे आम देश मातृकार सेवा करिबा एवं परम त्याग मध्य आवश्यक पड़ले आम देश पाई परम त्याग करिबा। आउ किछि तांकर जो से सिंगापुर रे एस्प्लांडा पार्क सिंगापुर रे से समय द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध रे शहीद होइथिबा भारतीय सैनिक जो माने कि से समय इंग्रेज सरकार तरफ युद्ध लड़ुथिले तांकर स्मृति स्तंभ निर्माण करथिले 1944 मसीह रे एवं सेथिरे सुंदर भाव में केवल 3टी शब्द से लिखिथिले, ताहा थिला यूनिटी, फेथ एंड सैक्रिफाइस। आमे जदि एकतार भाव में बांधी रहिबा एवं आमर देश को परम वैभवशाली करबा पई जदि आमे दृढ़ भाव में आत्मविश्वास एवं आत्मनिष्ठार सहित काम करि चलिबा एवं सर्वोत्कृष्ट बलिदान देवा पई तत्पर रहिबा ताहले आम देश को परम वैभवशाली करि परिबा एवं देश को हम विश्वगुरु करि परिबा। एही 3टी शब्द तांकर विचार, तांकर कार्यशैली एवं तांकर जीवन दर्शन को सुंदर भाव में प्रतिफलित करिथाए एवं आमको सर्वदा प्रेरणा दे थाए। तापरे तांकर किछि विचार जहा कि युव समाज पई मध्ये बहुत प्रासंगिक थिला एवं से सब बेले किछि तांकर विचार ए प्रकार उपस्थापन करथिले युव समाज पई। से कहउथिले जे दायित्वशील कर्मठ ଯୁବକ ଯୁବତୀ ନିଜର ଚରିତ୍ର ଓ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତିତ୍ୱକୁ ସୁସଂଗଠିତ କରି ଦେଶ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟଗୁଡ଼ିକୁ ସୁଚାରୁ ରୂପେ ସମ୍ପନ୍ନ କରିପାରିବେ। ଏହା ତାଙ୍କର ଯୁବ ଶକ୍ତି ପାଇଁ ଏକ ସୁନ୍ଦର ପ୍ରେରଣା ଥିଲା ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ମନେ ପକାଇବା ପାଇଁ ମଧ୍ୟ ବହୁତ ସୁନ୍ଦର ଶବ୍ଦର ବ୍ୟବହାର କରିଥିଲେ ସେ। ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ଭିଜନ ଥିଲା, ତାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ଦୂରଦୃଷ୍ଟି ଥିଲା, କିପରି ଆମର ସମାଜ ଗଠନ ହେବ, କିପରି ଆମେ ସ୍ୱାଧୀନତା ପରେ
I think there is some network problem of our president. Therefore, he is not able to join. We will proceed further. Now, I would like to request, before I go to our Cuttack District Secretary, Mr. Devasis Tripathi, to offer vote of thanks, I would like to thank all the dignitaries who are with us and witnessing this program through virtual mode. That honorable judges of our High Court, so many legal luminaries, they are watching this program. I, on behalf of Adhivakta Parisad, extend my heartfelt gratitude to them and expect such type of encouragement in future so that we'll be able to achieve our goal in providing justice to the persons who are standing last line of the society. Now I would like to request Devasis Tripathi, our secretary, to offer vote of thanks. District Unit Secretary, Mr. Devasis.
Thank you, sir. Honorable President, sir. While listening to the erudite speeches of my Lord Honorable Justice Panigrahi and other dignitaries, I was remembering one speech of former Chief Justice of India, Honorable Justice Y.K. Sabharwal. The Honorable CJI, in a public meeting, he had an occasion to speak that the honorable judges, except some, not expected to be good speakers, good orators. Now today, my lord, our honorable speaker, my lord Justice Panigrahi, he is the exception, who is a versatile speaker, a prolific writer also. He has written many articles on different topics, on different subjects. Today, while delivering the speech on the topic, my Lord Justice Panigrahi has left the spark to us to introspect, to think unity, faith, secularism, fellow feeling, everything that Netajee Subhas Chandra Bose has taught to the nation and taught to the universe. We are grateful to you, sir. We are grateful to our Soura Mohapatra, sir, senior advocate, a senior member of our fraternity, for his thought-provoking presentation. We are thankful to Kambupani Padhi, sir, our state president. We are thankful to Shri Gyanalok Mohanty, our state secretary. And also my special thanks to my two brothers, Advocate Manas Kumar Patra and Advocate Tirtha Kumar Sahu. My two brothers, they have labored relentlessly for success of this program. Thank you to all the members of Adhivakta Parisad and to the honorable guests. Thank you all.
Thank you, Devasis. Now, we are at the end of the meeting. at this juncture, now our president, actually there was some problem with the network. Therefore, our president could not join while delivering his speech. He was disconnected. However, sir, with your permission, we are going to conclude our program. Already vote of thanks was offered out by our district secretary. Therefore, with your permission, we are closing it. Thank you all. We are hoping for another program in the next future. I hope this type of cooperation from everybody. Thank you all. Namaskar.